mind-blowing UFO footage, latest 2016 disclosure, ECETI Ranch, Australia, Peter Maxwell Slattery. This is Rex Spear with Leak Project. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. I've been told that I use my hands too much when I talk, so I'll do my best during this presentation to keep them down. Now, what I'd like to discuss with you guys is this most recent interview that I had with Peter Maxwell Slattery. Absolutely incredible. See, I'm doing it again. I gotta use my hands. It's just the way that I roll. Now, in this podcast, Peter shares with us some of the best UFO footage I have ever seen in my life. Literally, I mean, this stuff is just mind-blowing. You're going to see craft the size of airplanes in the sky, multiple witnesses on a 4K video camera recorder, picking up stuff the size of airplanes that change shapes and sizes and colors. It's just incredible. Now, also, he shares with us images and pictures that he's taken out there at the ECETI Ranch in Australia, the Enlightened Contact Extraterrestrial Intelligence Camp in Australia. There's also one in Oregon with James Gilliland. And I'll tell you what, multiple footage, multiple videos, different pictures. There's this one picture towards the end of the podcast where you're going to see what looks like a gray, literally, and the thing just manifests in front of him and others in this like green mist. And you can see the outline of what looks like a head of the gray with the symmetrical eyes, mouth, everything. It's incredible. Also, I want to recommend you go to his website if you want to know more, petermaxwellslattery.com. He's also got a YouTube channel and ECETIAustralia.org. Check out our website, leakproject.com. Get access to a bounty of podcasts. They're totally free. If you want to download them or watch them ad-free, you can do that as well. It's like $1 per podcast, or for a monthly membership, it's $10. I hope Leak Project is worth $10 a month to some of you guys. But we do have access to the podcast as well, totally free at youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. We've got a new YouTube channel called William Wallace. That's a great channel as well. And those are our only two YouTube channels. There's been dozens of channels that have been popping up left and right. I think it might even be the same guy that's doing this. And he's pirating all of Leak Project's content, uploading it on his channel. And by the time I can find one of those, there's two more that pop up. So there's been a lot of you that have been bringing that to our attention here. I really appreciate that. If you guys can continue to be diligent on that, if you have the time, or if it just pops up in a search when you look something up and you notice that it's our content, if you continue to keep us updated on that, that'd be much appreciated. And let those guys know too, if you would. Leave a comment saying, hey, why are you still in Leak Project's work? I want to keep these free, you guys, as long as I can. We do have an option where you can pay a dollar a podcast, or like I said, the monthly membership where they're ad-free, downloadable, and streamable. But I'm doing my best to keep these totally free. And when you've got dozens of websites, or not websites, but dozens of channels that are popping up all over the place, taking our content, it makes it a lot more difficult. So I don't have a staff of people that can keep track of all these pirates. I don't have a staff of secretaries and people booking the shows for me. There's one other person that's helping us out here at the Leak Project, and that's Kristen, and she's doing an amazing job booking guests and setting up times and stuff, but she's got a life as well. And really, we're doing the work of 10 people or more. There's radio shows and programs out there that have well over a dozen people a part of the staff, and we're doing just as much, if not more, than they are. And I'm not trying to boast or anything here. I'm just saying there's so much on the plate for us that we have to take care of that it's difficult for me to continue to do 2 or 3 shows a day and do everything else on top of that. So anyway, we're going to continue to grow and get bigger and add shows and content. They're going to continue to get better and better and better. And you guys are a part of history as well. Everybody that's contributed to the Leak Project, whether you've left a comment, you've added material, sent us in information, pictures, been on the show as a guest, given us your testimony, sent our videos, share our videos to other people in social media outlets, talked about our work, etc. That is all a great contribution, and we are very appreciative of that. You guys are part of history as well. So be the change you want to see. This is Rex Spear. Enjoy the presentation. Talk to you soon. Bang. Can you see that?
It's just about there we go. I can see that. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, what I'd like to do is just play this, and as I'm playing it, you can just kind of walk us through the event when it took place, and we'll do this with these beautiful links you sent us. And I'd also recommend our audience go to Peter Maxwell Slattery if you want to see even more great footage. Not only go to the YouTube channel, but also petermaxwellslattery.com or ECETI Ranch Australia, not ECETI Ranch, but ECETI Australia, ECETI Australia.org. All right, so I'm going to hit play now. Are you still with us?
Yeah, mate.
Yes, okay. The Skype gremlins didn't get you yet. All right, now I'm going to be kind of gun-shy when I ask you about that. All right, here we go. I'm hitting play now, and it should be...
Yeah, it will be playing. That's the snapshot at the start just to show the object. Now, this is on 4K. this I went out and filmed after I get the calling to go outside. This is about 9:30 in the morning last year on the 5th of October 2015. Again, filmed with the 4K. This was on a tripod, so you can see this thing was going back and forth on itself over probably maybe 2 suburbs. And this is what a lot of the organic Pleiadian, Orion, and Sirian crafts look like. There's different variations, but this is basically just a being in its own craft. Sometimes they're more circular, sometimes they're egg-shaped. Just depends on the being and its own energy fields and that sort of thing. So at times I get there a little bit close. You can sort of see some clouds in the background there. But for proper quality, maybe you see the original if it's not coming up the best, because it's a little bit pixelated on my end. But yeah, this is pretty much a common thing for us. It sort of goes into slow motion in a minute, but you can skip through to the next video if you want. But that's sort of, some of what happens when when you're trying to get these things on a tripod. People think it's going to be very easy, but again, it's pretty hard. But you can see a bit of thickness and density about it. And these things are basically just made of a living light. So a lot of them is not what people think in terms of just the nuts and bolts part with this. Though I've seen those types of crafts as we've gone into before, the nuts and bolts, but they're not nuts and bolts, if you get what I mean. They are metallic, but they've all got a symbiotic relationship with the pilot too.
And, also, if you think about how far out this was, Peter, when you were filming this, what would you estimate the distance was between you and this object?
Hard to say, but I'd say between a low-flying aeroplane, like, a smaller type aeroplane that sort of does, view spotting and that, showing tourists around to a jet taking off in the area, which I guess the jets, they go between 30 and maybe up to 40,000 feet, but this wasn't that high. I'm using a 4K now. The other cameras I got could probably get this a little bit better, but it depends on the device you're going to play it on, because this is 4K, but once you get past 25 times zoom and go further, it gets a lot more pixelation. So that's the problem I got, is people want 4K, but there's not many 4Ks around yet with, really good zoom that's maybe, 40 to 50 times zoom.
Absolutely, that makes sense. And this this one looks like you took on the 14th of October just last year. Look at this thing. It's cruising.
Yeah, originally I saw an object that was like chrome or metallic with 2 square black hole squares in it that flew just above the power lines. And when I walked back, I saw this object above the house just sitting there, and it let me film it through binoculars, which I got footage of as well. But I tried getting on the 4K a few times, and it was just too hard. But it just sat there and let me getting it. And as you can see, right now, that's vertically pointing above my head, and it's going through the clouds the opposite direction. So that's on a tripod right now with me not even touching the camera.
Yeah, this is a good
and that was
one.
that was the Sirian. That was the Sirian beings that craft that day.
How do you know that?
It depends on the type of experience. Sometimes I'll just get full-blown dialogue in my mind's eye, which is, just as much as physical as me looking at the computer now. And there'll be a dialogue, what I call thought transfer, going on between the beings and myself. So sometimes I get it with some of the sightings, sometimes I don't. It depends on the experience, but I seem to pick up when people are about. But just so people don't get carried away, there's lots of other stuff in this footage. They're bugs, and a lot of people are saying they're crafts, but they're not. They're bugs. So that's the object in the middle there. Everything else is bugs.
I did notice a whole bunch of those. I mean, I was going to say something about that. There's some gnarly bugs out there.
It takes a bit of getting used to. I'm no photographic expert or anything like that, but it does take people a bit of getting used to. I can understand if they get carried away with lens flare or bugs or whatever. But this is about educating each other as well as providing the evidence as well.
Yeah, this video, I'm just really having fun with this. I'm trying to pause it here on, I mean, you can see all those bugs flying past for sure, and then you can tell whatever this is, and as you say, it's a Sirian craft. Is this also a sentient being as well, similar to what you've talked about when there's other things you see in the sky? You say they're like beings? Yeah,
this one is the line being. So I don't get dimensions on many of them, but these ones are more like they come around sort of to clean up energies when things aren't the best in terms of attacks, psychic attacks, attacks on multiple levels, whether it's from other human beings or not, behind the government, or whatnot, but that they were just popping through, just let me know that things are happening on other levels, because we do get quite a lot of other things happening, just, interference on multiple levels. So these guys are more like golden energies that I get, but there is times where they'll start to manifest, and they're just like golden light beings that look like lions. They're lion beings. So this would be what's referred to in a lot of the ancient texts, whether it's in Egypt, India, these are pretty much the same type of being. So the light's morphing light as well. So it's energy bands going around it, and there was a couple of them in there. But this was, this is how the sighting played out. And this, again, I was out in the backyard and I saw a metallic object that looked like a door sideways with 2 black squares in it, about 2 meters above the power lines. And I went out to film that. By the time I went out there, nothing was there. And when I walked back into the home, this was hovering directly above the house. This was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That is just too cool. Let's. I'm going to go to this one now, and this is UFO cluster over Melbourne, Australia, 4K.
So we went through this one last time, but it should come up a bit better for the viewers. This is what in Mexico, when I was on TV there, they called this the Abani. Now at the start, I've got a bit of image stabilizer on, which is why it's flicking around, but it gets a lot better and a lot clearer. This was about the size of a 747, and I can say that because it was on the flight path that I see these jets on all the time. With that said, it was going the opposite direction, and it was just shaping and morphing. There was other objects around at the time. I filmed them as well, but they didn't come up the best on camera. They're just tiny little dots, but this object was absolutely huge. And these are sort of what I believe, and I get on this, is that these are beings that live side by side us. They're there all the time. It's just they'll pop in and out at times. With certain steel frames that people can play with this themselves if they bring it up. You'll be able to see tubes at times. So this does look like it's made out of a lot of little tiny balls, but there's also tubes involved here as well. So again, this object was absolutely huge, gigantic. My partner nearly ran me over when she came home and I was in the driveway trying to film this.
Yeah, this is like a white seahorse right there.
Yeah, it keeps changing and morphing and doing crazy stuff. So, again, I'm not outside all day watching for this stuff that people need to know too. There's more of what I call thought transfer going on when I'm aware, and I just go out and they're there.
That's exactly what Boris says when he goes outside in the Bronx. We talked about him for a moment before. He says the exact same thing. That's very fascinating. On the other side of the world, the same experiences this guy has is what you are experiencing in Australia. I think that's just fantastic.
Yes, it's very common amongst a lot of experiences and people filming this stuff that are, if you talk to a lot of these sky watchers, when you talk to them behind the scenes, they're pretty much getting the same thing, but they don't want to go too public about it, or because it's just they want to keep it in the frame of unidentified flying objects in the sky, which it's getting a bit beyond that point now. But I can understand whether it's for their careers or whatever, why they go to a barrier with how they go into the information. But I pretty much will tell you what I get and what I experience. So there's so many different types of things out there and different types of objects that I think the really strange stuff we've really got to get into, because the experiences are very much out there compared to what people think. They want to limit the experience and keep it really physical, where this is really multidimensional experiences that we're all having.
Has anything happened to you recently since we talked last, out of the ordinary?
I get stuff every single day, but yeah, it depends. Like, I've got dialogue going on all the time. I'm actually working on putting out more information soon pertaining to a lot of things that are going on at the moment. But it's just like me talking to a friend, that how much dialogue I've got going on with a few of these beings. So there's been stuff happening, like I said, daily.
This reminds me of sculptures that I see on the Riverwalk of Aztec people, or some of the Mayans. If you kind of look at this kind of reminds, or even Easter Island. That's the sculpture that I'm thinking of, those giant heads and the small bodies. Look at this in comparison to that. Holy cow, that's pretty neat.
I'm just going to say too, some of these balls and things you see on there would be the size of a lounge room up to a house or a unit or an apartment. Like, that's how big those balls were when you could see them at times.
What I'm doing now is I'm just going to do kind of a comparison, pull this up, this image, and then Jeez. That's neat. That is really neat. And then when they pulled these out, there's bodies underneath them. So I wonder how many years ago these were created.
Yeah, it goes back a long time to, I think, the time of Atlantis and Lemuria with a lot of that. And from what I've got with the beings is that these objects, what they're made out of, they were basically put in a state almost like plaster, and they were shaped and molded by thought and with hands, some of them, and then they were set back to stone again through thought.
I mean, this one right here is probably one of my very favorite pictures that I have seen of a UFO. This one is really neat. I'm going to hit play again and just kind of let this, and as you look at it, it's like resonating. It's vibrating this color. Now right there, it looks almost like I think of a horse head costume, essentially. I mean, that's not what it is, I know, but it's just interesting how it's morphing shapes and stuff like that. It looks like the rook on a chessboard. It's emitting some type of just incredible light, like an energy source.
And this was on a tripod as well, so it just goes to show these things are, it's not so easy on a tripod getting this stuff.
Yeah, because when you move, it jerks around a lot. I can see that. It just kind of goes...
If you move 1 millimeter, you can go straight off the object at times. So you've really got to be really careful and just really careful with it.
This was the footage that the news reached out to you out there and said they wanted to put on their channel, correct?
No, that was the last bit of footage, I believe, that they did that, but there was more footage going back to 2010. I basically just I had hundreds of videos up on my YouTube channel, and to make it not confusing for everyone, I've basically left all the old stuff in the last 3 documentaries that I'm in. There's a recent documentary that goes for 8 minutes that just came out and won a film award in New York as well, which people can see for free on my website, but I've basically kept the best up at the moment, and everything else, old photos and everything people can see in the documentaries, because there was just too much stuff. I've got over, nearly up to 2,000 photos and videos all up.
Now that's great. So if you take that down, I mean, that's like 5 videos a day for 4 years. Then you've been, that's awesome.
Yeah, but they're still up, but they're in documentaries, sort of in one, a conglomerate of things. So they're still up there, but they're in documentaries, which people can go to the website and see for themselves anyway, just up on YouTube.
That's great. Let's see here. I'm going to see if we can just zoom in a second here. And so it kind of still seems to have, though, the same rods that you're referring to, those cylinder shapes. You can definitely see that oftentimes. One thing that I'm fascinated with about this, though, is just the way that it seems to resonate and emit like a different color. It's like an aura almost, but it's not, like a force-filled or energy source, and just so unique, these patterns and shapes. I find this one's almost like you look at it and you watch it, it's almost hypnotic.
Definitely, and what got me too was it acts like as if you're looking at somebody's chest when they're breathing. It's got that pulsating breathing type effect to it as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. That could kind of correlate with the live being, essentially, and yeah, that's great. All right, let's go to the next one here. And much appreciated you coming back on again with us here. Thank you so much, Peter.
No worries, no worries. Now, this one's quick. I do a slow motion close-up of it. I basically walked out the side, out the back with my camera, and as soon as I went out there was this object go from the right to the left, and I didn't know if I captured it at the time, and this is the day before James Gilliland left after he stayed with us for 3 months, so you might not be able to, it's a bit pixelated on my screen, but you'll see it in a minute once I do the crop and the zoom up.
Okay, there it is. I'm starting to see the...
Yeah.
It's out there.
But it went up through the clouds, so it sort of came out of the clouds, came down, and then it went back up above it, and you'll see it come through the clouds in a second again, I think. Yeah, there it is on the...
Oh, yeah.
Now, the great thing with 4K is that you can crop and pull it up, which is what I've done. So it should go into that in a second, I think.
Okay.
Now, this is what a lot of the Orion-type crafts will do. They will appear, some of them are a bit more metallic, and they appear to be shape-shifting balls. And people tried telling me this was a jet, and there was no noise. I know what jets look like. I've seen all that stuff, and so it's not about proving it. But this is what some of the Orion crafts will tend to do: is they'll be morphing balls, metallic type balls.
Have you came across entities that are malicious?
Yeah, I've actually just been in a documentary called Don't Mention the Reptilians, which has got Bill Ryan and David Icke and Mary Rodwell and Alice Taylor, a whole host of people, and I've had those experiences, both of a positive and or both of a negative and a neutral experience. And I don't sort of believe really in negative positive, though I do use those terms, but more service or self-serving beings. I've had experience with beings behind them too, which some refer to as the Archon or the Archon network, which once were the Elohim. And I go into some pictures we've got a little bit later that we can pull up of them as well. Originally, my experiences in later times, I spoke about with you last time my early experiences, but I'd be approached by these light blue light beings, and also at times I've seen them as blue orbs and they manifest into light blue light beings, which I wrote about this in 2012 in my my second and third book that I brought out then. And they eventually told me that we would call them the Elohim, and they're not angels, but that was sort of the best reference. But they gave me the reference of saying we are the Elohim, and take the religious taint out of that. Now, the Archons once were them, and they went a different direction and evolved differently and became sort of this darkish, smokish type substance. And they overshadow reptilians, and the reptilians can overshadow humans. So not all, as you can see now, too, these objects are just morphing. This is some of the stills from that footage. But not all reptilians are of a self-serving nature. I've been pulled into the earth before and had experiences with them where they said to let people know that they're not all bad and they're breaking up into factions because they can't evolve any longer the way that they've been going. But there seems to be a Draco faction that's standing over the Earth reptilians as well. But that's all coming down right now. And even the Dracos are moving where they're going in terms of control, especially with the secret space program, due to they can't evolve any further the way that they're going. But they're being manipulated as well. And not to say that reptilians, again, they deserve the reputation they've got, but not all of them. Just like humans, we can be quite bad as well if we want to use just an easy terminology here. But yeah, I've had experiences with a lot of different type beings, even Reptilian Greys.
Now, what are Reptilian Greys?
They come from the Draco area, but they pretty much have a body and a stature, like their body and everything's very similar to just the typical type Greys, but they are like a yellowish, brownish, slight green to them, and they've got huge yellow eyes with a slanted, slit pupil. And that was probably one of the worst things I ever came across through my experience, but through having compassion for it, I saw it turn into smoke and disappear.
So maybe that's kind of the key, the essential protection or building block, compassion?
Yeah, definitely. Now, this one here, I didn't get much on it that day, but this is pretty much a being in its light body floating in the sky. Very intense. There is a group of light beings I'm working with at the moment that I cannot even get a reference for. Some of the other beings have told me that they're really highly evolved, and it's just my journey to undo that information that they're communicating with me, because it's on a multi-dimensional level they're communicating with me. But at the moment, I'm just not understanding it. It's just too intense. Very much get blissed out and just smashed with energy when you are approached by them. But this is one of those beings flying in the sky now. And I've got this on multiple cameras. In a second, you'll see me get out a digital SLR camera with, I think I had maybe a 500 millimeter or 700 millimeter lens on at the time. And I point that up at the being and get that as well.
This is some great stuff. Just looking at it, it reminds me almost of a highly evolved form of Morse code or language. You know, like you said, some type of communication device that maybe we're not picking up on it consciously, but at a subconscious level, it knows exactly what it is, and the effect or implant of thought, energy, etc. It's got to be doing something, not just saying, hey, look at me, here I am. There's, I'm sure, more to that than meets the eye, especially when you think about ETs, higher dimensional beings. At that level, I'm sure that everything they do is going to have more impact and be pre-planned in a sense versus oftentimes what many of us do now, just walk through life blindlessly or aren't as prepared and planned versus every action and move that you make.
Definitely, definitely. And this is where a lot of what I'm experiencing is in what I call the geometric light realms, which is where a lot of these light beings, include the Elohim, their guardians to have access to these realms and are from these realms. And each color in the rainbow spectrum has different types of beings and is a different vibration. Then they come together. And then you go to this golden state, and then you go to past that as well to like a null point where everything's just dark, but it's another plane of bliss as well. And I've been shown everything made up of these purple Q soccer balls, a blueprint to all this as well. So a lot of these beings, you could say in the actual same space, these star systems and places exist. But once you go to their vibration, what you see there is completely different from here. Even some of these planets and stars don't exist in those states. So they will in a few different densities or vibrations. But once you sort of get to a certain point, everything changes. So that's been a hard thing for me to relate to people, is a lot of what I'm experiencing, especially when I'm taken to these geometric light realms. There's sort of very hard reference, even with drawings and artwork people have done. Some of it's similar but not exact, but the colours are absolutely amazing, and the information and the experiences and the joy and bliss in these states is absolutely amazing. What we're doing here now through upping the conscious here to help people evolve, this is actually bringing enlightenment to those which wish to stop it. It's almost like helping a little kid. They're going to go dragging, kicking and screaming, getting help. So there seems to be a lot going on here, and we're sent here as a virus at this time to get rid of the as an antivirus, to get rid of the virus, which would be the Archon network and those in line with that, to heal everything, because what's happening here is affecting the other planes and dimensions as well, and the other universes as well.
Well, geez, the Archons have been talked about for thousands of years, so, and it seems as if their influence of control could be more powerful now than ever. Yet at the same time, if you look at what it's like now versus a couple thousand years ago or even a few hundred years ago, I mean, things are pretty good. I mean, you don't have the type of, for the most part, I mean, at least here in the U.S. and some other Western countries, I know places like Syria have been blown to hell, and there's a lot of issues in places in Africa, and just about anywhere in the world, you're going to have good and bad pockets. Yet I see things now as far as a control grid. When things hit the fan, when SHTF actually happens, if it does, to the point of we're talking global reset or whatever, I feel that what happened in World War II with the concentration camps, the roundups of dissidents and those that thought for themselves, or anybody that was looked at as opposition to the system, the machine, was taken out. Even today, you've got natives that seem to be systematically destroyed. And before I forget, I want to bring up the Suicide Squad movie that I watched last night. Great movie, by the way, but there was one part in particular that kind of upset me when I noticed how they brought in this one person to be a part of the Suicide Squad. He had about a 10-minute part, 5-minute part. He was Native American, you could tell, and he was tricked into getting his head blown off, and he kind of made him, they made him look like a fool, and I feel they used the underlying theme of him being a Native American to kind of portray that to the subconscious, to kind of throw it in their face, which I really don't appreciate. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here, and I'm digressing, and I don't even remember where I was going with that. So...
all good. No, but you are right that the way the reset, I guess, happened after World War II and that, it's going to be happening in a similar way.
I remember I was going to go. Real quick, I'm sorry, before I forget, just the technologies that they have in place now with, microchips the size of pieces of dust that can track movements, sensors that can pick up somebody's heartbeat from miles away that are tiny, satellites, cameras on everything, everywhere, audio, etc. And not only that, but based upon the internet, as good as it is, it also allows the powers that be and marketing companies and others to create profiles on people and understand what makes them tick, what makes them upset, happy, etc. So with all of that combined, if there's that button push or that person at the very top level that wants things to go down like a pile of bricks or a set of dominoes, it's going to be a lot more difficult to break out of that system and find a place of protection, like a sanctuary, in my opinion. If this beast-like, narcissistic, archonic system of control can take everything over with this electronic interface, unless you can come up with some type of EMP system to wipe that away.
It's a good point, Rex. What I've been shown is that everything's been kept to keep us physical. And once we lose all physicality, what we're capable of on a multidimensional level, we don't need the technology. And see, the problem is that to evolve, we need to use a different level of consciousness. Like Albert Einstein said, you can't evolve with the same level of consciousness. Therefore, you have to use a higher level of consciousness to solve problems. So once things happen like that, we will go within, or those who are ready to go within will go within. And the technology will, even that we've got today, will seem like child's play, because the best technology is knowing how to manipulate reality. And we can experience and do things in such an amazing way. And this is where things like rape and murder won't exist, because you're coming from a different place where everyone's equal and at a different level of consciousness that these things won't even matter. This here is a prime example of, I filmed this in Albury recently when I went home to visit my family during the middle of the day. This floated around the whole 3 or 4 suburbs for 9 minutes. And my brother, who's a big skeptic, could not believe what he saw. Now, I didn't get what this object did, but when it left, it went vertically and shot straight up in the sky after going back and back on itself. So what would happen would, you'd be looking at it and it would go left for probably a few hundred feet, and then it would reappear where you originally saw it. I had multiple witnesses to this as well, and this is some of the snapshots. And this is what the geometric light beings can do. They can constantly shape and morph shape. The stuff it was doing was amazing. Now, I know people are going to say this is foil from a plane, this or that. Again, I'm not out there to convert anybody, but I had even skeptic people with me, like my brother and my stepfather, and they could not believe what this object was doing and how it was maneuvering for 9 minutes in the sky, and then it vertically leapt up and went back. And there's a prime example of how some of these light beings will appear in my home. You could see that shape there of the humanoid type body for a second. And this is what the geometric light beings will do. That, you know, this is the stuff where I've talked to people. For example, there was a friend of mine, a ufologist, Alan Ferguson, and he told me one day how he saw a 5-speed Filmaker gearbox, which is a Toyota car here over here in Australia, flying through the air. So people talk about flying saucers, balls of light, this and that stuff. That's all real. But the really trippy stuff, a lot of people in the public will never hear, because, you know, this is how weird some of the experiences are. They can project and do anything they want. And if you tell people I saw a car gearbox flying through the sky, they're going to look at you more nuts than what you said if you saw a ball of light or a UFO. So some of this stuff is very trippy.
Did you see the size of that engine flying around? I hear what you're saying,
exactly,
man. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's Transformers.
So I'd be lying and doing an injustice to you if I didn't show this footage.
It's the Decepticons. I love it, man. It's Transformers.
But that stuff's true. Like, again, you've got those in service or self-service mode, but right in between, you've got the Tricksters as well. And, you know, well over there, you've got Skinwalker Ranch. That's a prime example of the Trickster mentality, if anybody wants to research that story.
Hey, bring that. I'm glad you brought up Skinwalker Ranch, because I've actually been there, and I didn't have enough time to spend to where I could get any good footage of anything. But I actually went to that part that if you look up Skinwalker Ranch on the internet, there's going to be that picture that shows that camera system that's hanging up on a tree, and then you've got those blockades and the do not enter signs. I've been there, and I literally right there, I've got the same pictures of that area, and I didn't get a chance to pick up on anything out there. I looked for a way to kind of climb around it without breaking the law or anything like that. I saw a couple cliff sides and stuff, and I actually started to climb one. I was about 3/4 of the way up, and I thought, you know, this is about ready to fall down like a bunch of dominoes. Maybe I should just kind of climb back into the car and call it a day. But yeah, what is it? What's up with that place out there?
Definitely a portal spot. The stories there, you know, people, I think, you know, back in the day, they would have a shower, their towel or whatever would end up folded in the fridge, and they just had it out ready for them when they got out of the shower. Weird balls of light, people feeding or doing stuff to the cows. Like there was a story with the baby cow, they were feeding it or something, I can't remember. They turned around, did the same thing to another cow, and within seconds they turned back and the cow was mutilated. There's wolfmen that walk around there that have been shot, and it doesn't seem to do anything to the wolfman walking around. See, Bob Bigelow ended up buying it, and
right.
He had SIDS, which is a scientific group over there that I think he also funded and created to look into this, and George Knapp as well as Colin Kellier, I think it is how you pronounce it over there, did a book on the hunt for the Skinwalker, I think it is. Later it came out that they actually got one of the security guards on one of the shows called the Paracast. And what was revealed in that was that he was paid by the NSA. So that would be like me hiring ASIO or the NSA to do security on my property. What the hell are the NSA doing security checks and security on a ranch owned by Bob Bigelow, who also is the only dude in the entire world who's allowed to have weapons in space? So it's all you know, there's a lot of conspiracies there, but what I've pointed out is pretty much the facts of the matter, but it's too big to go into in such a short amount of time. But it is a big portal spot, and those local to the area have said this for years, that whole area is a big portal spot.
Okay, so you think that those stories are real about the Wolfman and stuff like that?
Mate, I'd have to talk to the people personally, but I think the way it's been reported and who's done the reporting, like mainly people like George Knapp, I
Right.
find very, very highly credible. But at the same time, mate, after half of the stuff that I've seen, anything's possible. Anything's possible. I can't judge those unless I've experienced it myself with the stuff I've seen. So I'd be doing myself an injustice if I didn't be open to certain things.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So you just think it's a hot spot for more like black ops, clandestine type, maybe either doing
Well, not
experimental.
just that. I reckon anything can come through, but I think there is things situated in that area because of what's been done there maybe in the past that you tend to have more trickster type beings where if you feel cool off an experience, you're going to have a cool experience. If you freak out, they're going to give you a negative experience, which is what you tend to get with, trickster type beings. They don't care either way.
What are trickster type beings?
Well, again, they seem to exist in a state pretty much from Earth. They're not from, I guess, any sort of plane. They can sort of just come in and out of planes and dimensions. And I think their job the whole time is to be in spirit form. And they've sort of just gone rogue, and they thrive off energy, of giving people good or negative experiences. But see, this is where with the trickster, again, it comes down to the person observing the experience. Just like quantum mechanics, it's all about the person observing whatever the experiment is. And so this is where, like I said before, if you give a positive spin on things, you're going to get a positive experience. If not, you're going to get a negative experience. But they can be any form they want. So these are those types of beings that I feel exist in a state where pretty much like ascended type beings, but they're not going to go any further. They're sort of earthbound and vibrating out of planes because they're staying in terms of there's a bit of self-service stuff going on there in how they treat people and react to things and why they're doing what they're doing, and they thrive off that energy. Very similar to an Archon, but they're not Archons. They couldn't even care what the Archons do, and they couldn't even care what the good fellas do either. They're not on either side. And there's not many beings out there that are like that except the Mantis. Now, the Mantis beings aren't tricksters, but then they look at the battle going on between those in service and self-service, and they really don't even care. They're just sort of observing it.
Yeah, let's talk about the Mantis for a minute. I shared with you something off the record about the Mantids and the Mantises, and what are their, what's their purpose? What are they doing being the observer, essentially?
Well, they're very scientific minded. And now with that too, they're very ancient. They don't see stuff how we see it, or even a lot of humanoid type beings, whether reptilians or Nordic type, even melanin dominant type beings, which are all really a conglomerate of all that anyway. But they're really scientific minded, and they're very ancient. So they go back to near the start of, I guess, the beginning of the physical universe in the state that they are. And they've mastered physicality to a state where they're pretty much the same form, and are very, very ancient beings. I can't stress that, but very scientific. Some of them have ascended, and there's light being type mantis beings and different forms of them, but they're more to the point of, and what I was shown is why we left Source to go within Source and experience and gain knowledge. These guys are kept to that, which is they're going out and experiencing and collecting data on a multidimensional level for Source within itself. And this is pretty much their job. And they've got access to the geometric light realms and to the physical type realms, for example, like we're in as well. So, again, there's different types and different offshoots. Their home planets, which I've got no reference for, have pretty much died out over time with how old they are, which is billions. Like we hear that the universe is so many billions of years old, but it goes back, from my understanding, much more than what scientific data is looking at now, including even Earth's history. So a lot of these things I haven't got reference for. There's no use giving numbers or names due to we're not even going to get to these places in time anyway, due to a lot of them not existing or they're too far out, unless we had multidimensional technology.
That's interesting because the Mantids or the Mantis, I've heard from other people that are not only contactees but researchers that they're kind of at the top of the echelon as far as knowledge and control, I guess, to a sense. I don't know about control, but if you talk about the Dracos and the Reptilians and the negative influence that some of them have, not all of them, is there a Star Trek type society? You hear about galactic organizations and the galactic alliance over here and the alliance of light and dark, etc. And I think there's a ton of disinformation out there and just people's, hopes and desires, and I'm sure there's truth out there as well. What is going on? I mean, are there organizations out there, secret space program that's connected with Mantids and Dracos and Reptilians and Greys? And if so, who's at the top levels? Who's calling the shots?
Who's calling the shots is us as an overall collective, but we're recalibrating things at the moment on such a huge level. So now I've never been shown a federation. What I've been shown is different councils, and there's different levels of councils. For example, there's a council of the whole, and the council of the whole, there are representatives of from all walks of life throughout all planes and dimensions that are connected to this council, which the white, tall, and there are short greys as well. This is an object in my home that I filmed recently. I just got something 2 nights ago I'm going to put up soon as well. Now, the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll see my cat, and you'll see the cat react to it as well. So you'll see the cat on the table there, and when this object comes out of the wall and goes past the cat, you'll see its eyes follow it, see?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So what I've been shown is councils. Now, not everyone is part of this council, though. Those who want assistance and help or whatever, they become part of the council. There is no infiltration or overriding civilizations or anything like that. It's just more of a place where people can meet and greet, and they can pretty much be on the same page of what people are doing, or what beings are doing, more to the point. Now, with the secret space program, there are things like that going on as well, but there is a lot of disinformation out there, and what people have to do is go with what resonates within their heart. Now, with going into the Mantis type beings, there's one thing I wanted to bring up is there's one being that is pretty much the most trippy and most blissful being that I've been around, and that's a being that I call the Wise One. And he looks like the being out of E.T., like the movie E.T., Steven Spielberg's movie, but he's a dark chocolate brown, very wrinkly, and he's got round black eyes. And sometimes he's got a hoodie on, whether it's brown or purple, and sometimes he's got like a golden scepter. And he's pretty much the oldest being that I know in physical form, because he mastered it and he's always been in that state. And he's situated in Orion at the moment, but he's not from Orion. It's pretty much his home has died out as well. And this dude is the most funniest and blissful thing I've ever been around. So there's very, it's funny what's in movies and that out there too. But again, I haven't been across a galactic federation or a galactic federation of light and all this stuff that goes around. I've never been shown that, but I've been shown the best terminology they can use with me is councils.
Okay. That's great that you bring up the ET factor, because I remember in the 80s when aliens were brought up on, or extraterrestrials, our space brothers and sisters, whatever name that you want to put to these beings, they were looked at as friendly, helpful, and humans were looked at as the ones that were going to, let's take that extraterrestrial and hook them up to a bunch of machines and experiment on them and cut them up and find out what we can do to help our war machine. And it's kind of scary, because if you look at the world as a whole right now, it certainly seems as if the defense industries and these corporations that don't help the Earth or people, but kind of give them their sweet poison that so many ask for, it just seems as if now the ET shows that we watch, it's all about Independence Day. We got to worry about these extraterrestrials coming to Earth and blowing us up, taking our family, etc. And in the 80s, it was ET helping out. Alf was always fun to watch, and they're like, hey, how's it going? I'm Alf. Let's, he'd eat your cat, but that was about as bad as it got. So it's very interesting the way Hollywood can spin things and how everything's incorporated. And that's what I like about talking with you, Peter, is you certainly have the most amazing footage that I've ever seen, and you also bring things to the table in a very kind manner. You don't talk like you are the absolute say-all, see-all, know-all, yet when you talk, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, and you're bringing up some what to many people might think is crazy because it's so far out there, yet you explain it in such a eloquent manner that it's hard to disagree with you. And then when you look at the footage that you're combining with that, it makes it even more difficult because you can see it for yourself and you're just a part of this. So, and then people might say, well, it's Project Bluebeam, or you might have those that say, well, they're the Nephilim, or they're fallen angels, or they're demons, or devils, or Satans, or Smurfs that have bad energy, or whatever, but it's seriously. But yeah. So I like how you're bringing it to the table, and it's always nice to get another side of you when you're speaking with somebody that's actually living it, doing it, experiencing it. And it certainly is just food for thought. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there while we're going through this. And I'm going to pull up the next video now and let you talk here. And I'll give you the mic.
Yeah, and by no means do I know it all. I wouldn't even have a clue of, 0.00001 out of a billion% of what's going on, which I want to tell everyone too. I believe that we've all got a part in what's going on. So definitely, again, this is only some of what's going on, not all of it. This is just a replay of a clip on different cameras. The other two cameras were pretty crappy, but this is Mount Buffalo, where I go a lot of times at Christmas and New Year's, and I took my partner and the kids and my family's got a cabin there, so we're all hanging out, and I was telling them that this craft was coming. And you can hear in the video clip, if you unmuted it, people can go and watch it anyway. You can hear me saying, watch it, watch it, watch it. And then I put music on because I end up swearing my head off. But this was very low over the trees.
That's oh, wow, look at that. And it's like slowing down.
Yeah. So it was funny because the space station was either just before or just after this, and people saw this because I was saying what we see is the space station. When they saw that, they didn't know what to say because there were other people in the caravan or the trailer park where we were. So that was pretty funny to see people's reactions when they say it's the space station, and then they see that, and it was either just before or it was just about after it was about to become the space station, because people were trying to debunk us in the caravan park, so they got a bit of their own medicine there.
Well, people definitely need to go to your YouTube channel, Peter Maxwell Slattery, and also go to petermaxwellslattery.com for more videos. That's kind of your go-to say-all, see-all site where you've got everything compiled together, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And there's books there as well. I've done 9 books, and I've done about 8 or 9 documentaries as well. There's going to be another one coming out soon as well. So if people want to get the lowdown on pretty much what I know up to this point, though there's more I'm going to be revealing soon. The book of Shiji is pretty much one of my best sellers, and it's got a lot of information in there, and it's an easy read as well, which was Shiji wrote through me in 9 hours and 9 days with a lot of information. So there's a lot there. This is just a little bit more of the other cameras of that same object that you just saw, but they're not quite the quality of night vision that first clip was from. So, yeah. You can see it up the top of the screen area it was there, but anyway, it's all good. So this is actually the next one you're going to go to. That was, this is filmed with 2 4K cameras, and my partner filmed this with me as well. So what you're about to see in this clip is the same object filmed through 2 different cameras, which are both 4K. And anybody interested in learning a lot about the beings as well, go to solreta.com. That's SOLRETA.com. She's known around the world as the ET communicator. She's been on a lot of different shows, and she's been doing this stuff for many, many years. And there's a lot on her website, but she's filming this stuff with me as well, which is just fantastic to have a partner which understands me, and we have experiences together as well. So it's pretty good when you've got a partner that's experiencing the same thing and you're both not nuts. So you can see me there on the ground filming the object above us, and she zooms up onto that in a minute.
There it is.
And she's getting good. To tell you the truth, I reckon her footage is pretty much better than mine. She's a lot steadier at times, but it just takes a bit of training. She understands that there's sort of a little knack to it. It's just not so easy like people think, but she's getting amazing footage.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, so you'll see that will sort of phase out, and we'll go into it goes into my footage in a second, like I think just after this bit here. So, again, a lot of this is broad daylight. I do have footage of drones and weather balloons and all that. I haven't put it up because I'm not about putting that stuff up, but if researchers came here or whatever, I can show them the clear as day difference between what we're filming here and unknown objects as well. So there's a plane, as you can see, and there's my partner on the ground filming, and this is what I get.
Looks like a cosmic skittle. That's great.
So, yeah, people can go to, even just type in Peter Maxwell Slattery or Peter UFO Australia, and all this stuff will come up, and they can see it themselves in high quality at YouTube. Again, a lot of these are uploaded in 4K, so they can really get to see a lot of the quality with it as well.
Okay, wonderful. And then this one looks like you took on the 14th of November. I guess I'll try and go through these a little bit quicker. I forgot how many you sent me, and this is so good. I'm just getting absorbed in every single one of these videos, but we've still got a few more here, so we'll try and we'll speed this up just a little bit. And man, this is some great stuff. My goodness, this is wonderful.
So this was filmed with the public at my house, because we had the public come to our house in Melbourne. This I was able to just to get in time. This is a huge craft that came in, going behind the gum tree there. So we had the public there for this, and just after that, there'll be, you can see the laser pointing up at it, and it's gone behind the tree there. I was only just able to capture that, but that's it in slow motion. It was a huge object. And in a minute, I think if this is the footage, once this object passed, and blinked out, there's a craft that does a huge flash in the sky, and they're telling me where it is, and I put the camera up there, and we capture it doing a huge flash in as well. So I think it's on this one, or it might be the one after.
Okay, let's see here.
Oh, yeah, this is the one. Yeah,
Okay.
so there's the people in the backyard. You can see them, and they're pointing up at the sky, saying that we're getting a flash. So I just put the infrared camera up there and to where they're pointing.
There it is. Wow.
Yeah. So we get a lot of this type of thing during a skywatches, and we do start them pretty early sometimes because I want people to really experience both the daytime and nighttime stuff, which I think in the next clip or another clip that I sent you, there's two crafts flying over when we start the event from home.
It was just saying hello to you right there. That's what it kind of seemed
Yeah,
as if it was
just
doing.
signals. Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Hi, I'm
So-
here. I see you. Just want to say hello. 23rd of January.
Yeah, this was at the beach actually. We did this at the beach in Melbourne when James came. So bit of a crowd there, as you can see.
Yeah, that's great. Reminds me of, that reminds me of Padre Island. That looks so similar with the beach and then the backdrop there and how it's just kind of very remote. You don't have a whole bunch of people with lawn chairs except for you guys because you're a part of this group, but there isn't a whole bunch of other people out there, making noise and ruckus and stuff like that. This is very similar to Padre Island National Seashore. This is nice. Okay, here we go.
Now, we had a flare come over that night, so we show you what a flare looks like in a moment. But this is the craft that came straight out straight away. You can see it react to the laser. Just shrink straight down.
It made it shrink, huh? You ever wonder if this could be some type of like Project Bluebeam, where maybe this is just all holographic stuff, and maybe certain factions are trying to create a buzz or a stir to divert attention or for whatever agenda they might have?
The beings have told me about that they do such things, but if in doubt, I throw it out. We see when I do these sky watches again, I hand around the satellite tracker so people can see themselves what's satellites. I point the satellites out, and then you get stuff that interacts with this and is very low. I let people make up their own minds, but there is times where I've got a feel that the military are watching in, and some of it is military activity. And that's because I get people as well as myself, we remote view the crafts and connect with the crafts. And if you're getting almost like a artificial intelligence, or you're not getting that hardcore blissful feeling, it's either military or an illusion or, reptilian type stuff or archonic type stuff. So there's a flare. That's the flare. You can see the smoke trail above it. And it was just funny that this was let off that night because we've never had a flare let off during our skywatches ever.
Okay. And then, you can see the smoke in the background there, and it seems to last a lot longer. Okay. And then, let's see here.
You can see how it's different to what we filmed, which we just replay the big craft that came in when we first started.
Yeah, because this one's moving more. You could definitely tell the other one was a flare if you looked at it. Major power-up and 2 crafts at ECETI. Trout Lake, Washington.
This is when we were in America recently at the ECETI Ranch, and you'll see 2 objects moving here, and then one of them does the back one there that on the right-hand side in the middle of the screen, it just does a bit of a power-up.
How do you know it's doing a power-up?
Oh, because it just gets really big in size. Now, you can see the difference between iridium flares. Now, the iridium flares are a lot quicker a lot of the time, and they're different. But these two, it's one of those things, again, that you had to see the whole sighting and be there, because just filming it doesn't give it justice when you're there with what these things do and how they maneuver and curve. But again, it's just something that people have to experience themselves. See how big it's getting there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we call that a power-up.
Okay. That's a good analogy for it. I like that. Let's see, while this is... pull up the next one here. Big power up. Now let's do this one. UFOs comes out of Mount Adams. This, this I got to throw this out there for you real quick if I can. A friend of mine that I worked with before, he, at the time, it was a different industry, but back in the day, he worked in the Department of Defense, Langley, been very prestigious with military, family, etc. He told me one time about how he was out by Crater Lake, and he saw this metallic disc just shoot out of the lake. Just like, boop, straight out. It just blast off.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen balls of light do this. There's pretty much the same thing coming in and out of lakes.
And Crater Lake is a very, mysterious, beautiful lake out there in Oregon, and it's not too far from this location. Yeah, that's neat. You can kind of see it there. One just kind of came out of nowhere and then just took off. How big do you think that was? Well, it looks like it's about the size of a tree.
Yeah, it's probably like the size of a big car, even bigger. Maybe half the size of a bus.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so this is a more recent one. Our friend Tim actually spotted this when we had a skywatch here. So this is the back deck where we do all the skywatching out the back of our house. And I started filming what you see. It came out of the clouds and came down pretty low, and then it ran out of battery. So I've grabbed my partner's grabbed the other camera, and I've put new batteries back in this camera here. And I started to film with the 4K in a minute in color. But what's cool is with her infrared camera, you can see this object in time eventually completely blink out. Once I stop filming as well. So this is filmed on 2 devices. So this is the first bit of footage I got, and then it just cuts out, and you'll see me film with the other camera in a second. But a lot of these, they're just huge white or golden balls. Sometimes you'll get red or blue ones. Green ones, there's different colours. So that's with the 4K camera.
Okay.
Now, again, this object completely blinks out in infrared, which if it was a plane or a satellite, it would still be there until out of view, which some people are saying is the space station or a satellite, but the space station or satellite will not completely blink out in infrared. It just doesn't happen. So you'll see me film that for a little bit, and I zoom up on it, I think, a little bit. And I'll stop filming that in a minute. My partner's, you'll see my partner's footage, which is the rest of it in infrared.
This internet is just so slow, and it shouldn't be. Yet I'm pleasantly surprised, knock on wood, how well this has gone. This has been, except for a couple of hiccups, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. Now, last time we got cut off a lot, so...
Oh, it got to the point to where we couldn't even really do anything. It was that bad. It was fascinating. It made me feel good. I was like, yes, we're on to something. And as soon as I say that now, none of this is loading up. I spoke too soon. I knocked on wood. I thought that'd be good enough. And it's... All right, well, let's do this. This is being slow here. So I think... No, is it going now? Yep, there we go. We're going.
So there's people there, as you can see, and we've got a lot of witnesses to people experiencing this type of stuff in the home. So this is what my partner got with the infrared monocular. So you'll see that there's the object there. You'll see some power lines in a minute, but this object ends up completely vanishing. So again, if it was a satellite, space station, even a plane or a helicopter, it's going to be there the whole time. It would not blink out. So yeah, you can see a little star on the right of it there, that little dot. That's the star.
Okay.
Very intense energy. And what's great, there's a power line there it's crossing now. What's great is at the Skywatches, sometimes we get beings we just haven't interacted with before, but because we've set the intent for people that have the experience, and for those that really want to experience it and want to connect with whoever they want to connect with that's in line with them and that they work with on a level that they're not aware of, we get some pretty cool beings and crafts and experiences happening as well. So, I can't even count the amount of different types of beings and races that we've interacted with because it's just evolving all the time.
Fantastic. Absolutely incredible. It's like you're living in Star Trek almost, yet you don't have to even leave your home. You can do it right out here. The holodeck is presenting itself right in front of you. Now I'm gonna share. Now we got a few more pictures before we close out tonight. And once again, Peter, thank you so much for coming on here with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honour being on with you, and keep up the great work, mate. I know everyone's loving it, so keep it up.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just glad to be a part of it. It's a lot of fun for myself, and also it's an education. It's an experience, and I feel like everybody that's been a part of this is a part of something big. I think we're all a part of something much bigger than we can see right now, and this is all happening for a reason. So it's wonderful. Now, this is the Elohim that you were...
Yeah, this is what they look like a lot of the time, is the blue orb on the right, but they'll manifest into these beings. Now, you'll get a white light emanating from them, even though they're blue. These guys are situated in Orion, in Sirius, in the Pleiades, and they're also located at basically all portal points. So it's not just there. These guys are throughout the universe at portal points. And Shiji, another facet of me actually, which is a Pleiadian who's at the Star Rope in the Pleiades, she's one of these, but a younger version. She's because they create their own selves by thought. And this is a good example when I've been on the crafts. This is what I'm interacting with, and they can together as a group consciousness create a bigger orb or a disc or whatever they want. So this is the Elohim. They're in Andromeda as well. There's different types of beings in Andromeda that look similar to this as well. So there's different variations of the blue beings there and throughout the cosmos as well.
Okay. And then another image that I'd like to look at that you sent to us is the Archons. This one's spooky. Right there.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of the smoky, misty stuff, it once was the Elohim, what we saw before. And these guys are basically, they can appear and be anything they want. These guys are overshadowing the Reptilians a lot of the time, though the Reptilians still do bad stuff, or some of them do not so good stuff without the assistance of these guys. And again, these guys can pretty much, a lot of the misty stuff can be this sort of stuff, but the misty stuff we get in the home here, there's a different energy to it. But when it's these guys, you'll know. And a lot of the time, people won't get to interact with these guys. But now with what's happening and everything coming undone, they're starting to skip the Reptilians and Greys and basically do attacks on people directly themselves. Yeah, these guys are out there. And again, what's going on here has been happening throughout the universe. What's going on with artificial intelligence and the Archon network is not just happening in our solar system. It's been happening in other galaxies as well. But this seems to be the pinnacle point. What happens here is going to affect everywhere, and it's because of a lot of the everything's determining what's going on here because of what everyone's invested here. This is the book of Shiji. There's the geometry in Shiji behind the geometry and the stars there representing the star nations. This is basically my best-selling book out of the 9 books that I've done, and the information that a lot may want to read is in this book. It's not a big read at all. It's probably about 100 pages, but a lot of what I've spoken about more in detail is in this book as well. And Shiji, again, is another facet of me. She's a being which isn't a she or a he, but started to appear as a woman physically to me. It's another facet of me which resides in the Star Rope, and she's a gatekeeper of the star because it's a portal. And she works in sync with Metatron and a lot of the other beings and star nations, as well as the Elohim, because when she's in a natural state, she's one of the Elohim.
I've heard Metatron before, and that's one of those names that isn't brought up very often. It's kind of a hidden name almost, yet very powerful. What is Metatron to you?
Metatron is type of people say an angelic type being. I've interacted with, I get a male type energy with him, and I see him as geometric purple hue light being. He's master of the electron, and also when I've seen everything in its blueprint of the universe, it was a purple hue like him, and this is where part of the information came to me, where we all break down to one electron, and we remanifested other electrons in other parts in space and time in any finite dimension, because every electron and everything in the universe has got a symbiotic relationship. So a lot of these Merkabas, when they disappear and vanish, they're breaking down to one electron, sometimes, not all the time, and they're remanifesting in another plane, in another space-time continuum somewhere else. So Metatron is the master of the portals. He's an overseer of all the portals because he's got access to all portals at one time due to the level of consciousness that he's at. Now, again, if you're talking to me 2 or 3 years ago, I'll tell you people talking about Metatron were full of crap, but I've experienced it, and I'll tell you what, it shook my world when I started having a lot of these geometric light realm experiences, because it really opened me up to not ridiculing those or stop putting stuff in my black basket and put it in the grey basket, because there's so much, again, I've got to learn, and I'm continuing by the day.
That's great. And certainly, I like how you brought up the geometric patterns. That's fascinating. One time I had an experience where I guess you could call it an astral projection experience, because it was far beyond the real time zone. If you've ever had an OBE where you kind of leave your physical body and float around the room or something like that, you're still in the real time zone. Yet if you astrally project, that's where you go into those different dimensions. And one of the experiences I had one time that I'll share with you and those that are listening here at the Leak Project was similar to what you're talking about, where everything broke down. What I saw and envisioned was literally geometric shapes and patterns. That was it. And I can even remember the types of patterns. It all seemed to be this, not pyramid yet, it was a upward arrow almost is what the pattern was. And that's all that it was. And I remember seeing red and yellow. So that's interesting how you brought up the purple, because the purple represents the red and blue combined. So it's the yin and the yang.
Interesting.
I'm glad that you brought that up with us here. That's fantastic that you did, because now it kind of made me think about that experience that I had. And with me just seeing the red and the yellow, I wonder if that was more, I guess, towards the I don't know, the yin aspect of it more so than the whole concept. I don't know. What would you think about that? If you were in that dimension where you're seeing red and yellow, not the purple aspect, what goes through your mind?
You're getting a different, I'll say there's a couple of energies involved there. And I'd be taking notice of your thoughts or information that came through in time that relates to that experience, because you'll get downloaded information at the time. And a lot of these beings, even the UFOs we see, they're not all extraterrestrial. This links back to even experiences like you're talking about, the geometric light realms, and they're interacting with you. And it's very, very much very high planes, and there's no hierarchy, but these guys are that far evolved from us, and we're actually all got a facet of ourselves existing in these states, that it could even be another facet of you that you're interacting with. And because you're in a multidimensional state, that there's a bleed through there where you'll be getting all this. But a lot of the time people are taken aback. It's only when you sort of stop to become the observer without being awed by what you're experiencing where you get the information bleed through. But that's sort of what I'm getting on it.
Okay. Yeah, much appreciated. And let's jump into this image that we're looking at here. This is one of my favorites. I definitely see what looks like a face of a gray inside of this mist, or what people refer to as the gray. I'm just using that because most people can relate to that.
Yeah, well, this is the smoky stuff that I talk about. The crafts will land on the house, on the bedroom, on the back deck, land on us in the beach, and it will be in this mist-type apparition. We see them come out of the gum trees in the backyard as definitive shaped discs. So this is what I'm talking about, where the beings, a lot of the time, people will see them walking around my home or our home like this here, out in the front yard. I see this stuff walking in the city. Everywhere I go, I see this, what I call the misty stuff. And it's only when I concentrate or whatever on seeing it at the time, well, sometimes I get communication going on. But this is pretty much a good reference to show that, you'll get elemental spirits, nature spirits, past spirits, lost souls, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings. They will appear as this, and this is just outside of our frequencies. They start to try and sometimes do fully materialize. So it's, a lot of this stuff is out there. A lot of people are capturing it. But these guys are from the Council of the Whole, and these are the tall ones. They're 7 foot, or on average between 7 foot and 5 foot. So there's different types, but you'll get a wavy effect with them as well when you're seeing them, like, because it's just energy vibrating.
That's a really neat image. And one more that I'd like to share before we close out tonight, and I'd also recommend our audience go to PeterMaxwellSlattery.com. Also check out the YouTube channel, Peter Maxwell Slattery. And this one right here looks like you've got several images compiled together.
Yeah, this is just a little bit of a promo pic I did. I can't see it fully online, but yeah, there's just a snapshot of a few different crafts here just joined together.
That's great. Well, this has been just a pleasure to speak with you once again, Peter. And before we close out tonight, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
No, just for more, just go to petermaxwellslattery.com or ECETIAustralia.org. And we'll keep in touch, mate. And Rex, keep up the good work, and thank you for everyone for watching and listening.
Fantastic. Yeah, this has been just a pleasure to speak with you. Folks, also go to leakproject.com. You'll have access to exclusive content on leakproject.com. Also, check out our YouTube channels. Now, folks, we've only got 2 YouTube channels. We've got the youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. That's the Leak Project channel. And then we've got a William Wallace channel, which is linked directly off of the Leak Project channel. Now, there are dozens of copycat pirated sites that are popping up, folks, and they're still in our work. So if, there's been a lot of people that have been reaching out to me saying, hey, are you opening up a bunch of new sites and channels? We're not. And I really appreciate you guys keeping an eye out for us. So if you see something like that, if you could bring that to our attention, that'd be much appreciated. And thanks for everything, everybody. Be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Talk to you soon. Mind-blowing UFO footage, latest 2016 disclosure, ECETI Ranch, Australia, Peter Maxwell Slattery. It's Rex Bear with Leak Project. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. I've been told that I use my hands too much when I talk, so I'll do my best during this presentation to keep them down. Now, what I'd like to discuss with you guys is this most recent interview that I had with Peter Maxwell Slattery. Absolutely incredible. See, I'm doing it again. I got to use my hands. This is the way that I roll. Now, in this podcast, Peter shares with us some of the best UFO footage I have ever seen in my life. Literally, I mean, this stuff is just mind-blowing. You're going to see craft the size of airplanes in the sky, multiple witnesses on a 4K video camera recorder, picking up stuff the size of airplanes that change shapes and sizes and colors. It's just incredible. Now, also, he shares with us images and pictures that he's taken out there at the ECETI Ranch in Australia, the Enlightened Contact Extraterrestrial Intelligence Camp in Australia. There's also one in Oregon with James Gilliland. And I'll tell you what, multiple footage, multiple videos, different pictures. There's this one picture towards the end of the podcast where you're going to see what looks like a gray, literally, and the thing just manifests in front of him and others in this like green mist. And you can see the outline of what looks like a head of a gray with the symmetrical eyes, mouth, everything. It's incredible. Also, I want to recommend you go to his website if you want to know more, petermaxwellslattery.com. He's also got a YouTube channel and ECETIAustralia.org. Check out our website, leakproject.com. Get access to a bounty of podcasts. They're totally free. If you want to download them or watch them ad-free, you can do that as well. It's like $1 per podcast, or for a monthly membership, it's $10. I hope Leak Project is worth $10 a month to some of you guys. But we do have access to the podcast as well, totally free at youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. We've got a new YouTube channel called William Wallace. That's a great channel as well. And those are our only two YouTube channels. There's been dozens of channels that have been popping up left and right. I think it might even be the same guy that's doing this. And he's pirating all of Leak Project's content, uploading it on his channel. And by the time I can find one of those, there's two more that pop up. So there's been a lot of you that have been bringing that to our attention here. I really appreciate that. If you guys can continue to be diligent on that, if you have the time, or if it just pops up in a search when you look something up and you notice that it's our content, if you continue to keep us updated on that, that'd be much appreciated. And let those guys know too, if you would. Leave a comment saying, hey, why are you still in Leak Project's work? I want to keep these free, you guys, as long as I can. We do have an option where you can pay $1 a podcast, or like I said, the monthly membership, where they're ad-free, downloadable, and streamable. But I'm doing my best to keep these totally free. And when you've got dozens of websites, or not websites, but dozens of channels that are popping up all over the place, taking our content, it makes it a lot more difficult. So I don't have a staff of people that can keep track of all these pirates. I don't have a staff of secretaries and people booking the shows for me. There's one other person that's helping us out here at the Leak Project, and that's Kristen, and she's doing an amazing job booking guests and setting up times and stuff, but she's got a life as well. And I mean, really, we're doing the work of 10 people or more. I mean, there's radio shows and programs out there that have well over a dozen people a part of the staff, and we're doing just as much, if not more than they are. And you know, I'm not trying to boast or anything here. I'm just saying there's so much on the plate for us that we have to take care of that it's difficult for me to continue to do 2 or 3 shows a day and do everything else on top of that. So anyway, we're going to continue to grow and get bigger and add shows and content. They're going to continue to get better and better and better. And you guys are a part of history as well. Everybody that's contributed to the Leak Project, whether you've left a comment, you've added material, sent us in information, pictures, been on the show as a guest, given us your testimony, sent our videos, shared our videos to other people in social media outlets, talked about our work, etc. I mean, that is all a great contribution, and we are very appreciative of that. You guys are a part of history as well. So be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Enjoy the presentation. Talk to you soon. Bang. Can you see that?
It's just about the... There we go. I can see that. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, what I'd like to do is just play this, and as I'm playing it, you can just kind of walk us through the event when it took place, and we'll do this with these beautiful links you sent us. And I'd also recommend our audience go to Peter Maxwell Slattery if you want to see even more great footage. Not only go to the YouTube channel, but also petermaxwellslattery.com or ECETI Ranch Australia, not ECETI Ranch, but ECETI Australia, ECETI Australia.org. All right, so I'm going to hit play now. Are you still with us?
Yeah, mate.
Yes, okay. The Skype gremlins didn't get you yet. All right, now I'm going to be kind of gun shy when I ask you about that. All right, here we go. I'm hitting play now, and it should be...
Yeah, it will be playing. It's just, that's the snapshot at the start just to show the object. Now, this is on 4K. This I went out and filmed after I get the calling to go outside. This is about 9:30 in the morning last year on the 5th of October 2015. Again, filmed with the 4K. This was on a tripod, so you can see this thing was going back and forth on itself over probably maybe 2 suburbs. And this is what a lot of the organic Pleiadian, Orion, and Sirian crafts look like. There's different variations, but this is basically just a being in its own craft. Sometimes they're more circular, sometimes they're egg-shaped. Just depends on the being and its own energy fields and that sort of thing. So at times I get there a little bit close. You can sort of see some clouds in the background there. But for proper quality, maybe you see the original if it's not coming up the best, because it's a little bit pixelated on my end. But yeah, this is pretty much a common thing for us. It sort of goes into slow motion in a minute, but you can skip through to the next video if you want. But that's sort of, you know, some of what happens when you know, when you're trying to get these things on a tripod. People think, you know, it's going to be very easy, but you know, again, it's pretty hard. But you can see a bit of you know, thickness and density about it. And these things are basically just made of a living light. So you know, a lot of them's not what people think in terms of just the nuts and bolts part with this. Though I've seen those types of crafts, as we've gone into before, the nuts and bolts, but they're not nuts and bolts, if you get what I mean. They are metallic, but they've all got a symbiotic relationship with the pilot too.
And, you know, also, if you think about how far out this was, Peter, when you were filming this, what would you estimate the distance was between you and this object?
Hard to say, but I would say between a low-flying aeroplane, like, you know, a smaller type aeroplane that sort of does, I guess, view spotting and that, you know, showing tourists around to a jet taking off in the area, which I guess the jets, they go between 30 and maybe up to 40,000 feet. But this wasn't that high. I'm using a 4K now. The other cameras I got could probably get this a little bit better, but it depends on the device you're going to play it on, because this is 4K. But once you get past 25 times zoom and go further, it gets a lot more pixelation. So that's the problem I got, is people want 4K, but there's not many 4Ks around yet with, you know, really good zoom that's maybe, you know, 40 to 50 times zoom.
Absolutely, that makes sense. And this this one it looks like you took on the 14th of October just last year. Look at this thing; it's cruising.
Yeah, originally I saw an object that was like chrome or metallic with 2 square black hole squares in it that flew just above the power lines. And when I walked back, I saw this object above the house just sitting there, and it let me film it through binoculars, which I got footage of as well. But I tried getting it on the 4K a few times, and it was just too hard. But it just sat there and let me getting it. And as you can see, Right now, that's vertically pointing above my head, and it's going through the clouds the opposite direction. So that's on a tripod right now with me not even touching the camera.
Yeah, this is a good
And that
one.
was the Sirian beings that craft that day.
How do you know that?
Oh, it depends on the type of experience. Sometimes I'll just get full blown dialogue in my mind's eye, which is just as much as physical as me looking at the computer now. And there'll be a dialogue, what I call thought transfer, going on between the beings and myself. So if sometimes I get it with some of the sightings, sometimes I don't. It just, again, it depends on the experience, but I seem to pick up when people are about. But just so people don't get carried away, there's lots of other stuff in this footage. They're bugs, and a lot of people are saying they're crafts, but they're not. They're bugs. So that's the object in the middle there. Everything else is bugs.
I did notice a whole bunch of those. I mean, I was going to say something about that. There's some gnarly bugs out there.
It takes a bit of getting used to. I'm no photographic expert or anything like that, but it does take people a bit of getting used to. I can understand if they get carried away with lens flare or bugs or whatever, but this is about educating each other as well as providing the evidence as well.
Yeah, this video, I'm just really having fun with this. I'm trying to pause it here on. I mean, you can see all those bugs flying past for sure, and then you can tell whatever this is, and as you say, it's a Sirian craft. Is this also a sentient being as well, similar to what you've talked about when there's other things you see in the sky? You say they're like beings?
Yeah, this one is the line being. So I don't get dimensions on many of them, but these ones are more like they come around sort of to clean up energies when things aren't the best in terms of attacks, psychic attacks, attacks on multiple levels, whether it's from other human beings or not, behind the government or whatnot, but that they'll just pop through, just let me know that things are happening on other levels, because we do get quite a lot of other things happening, just, interference on multiple levels. So these guys are more like golden energies that I get, but there is times where they'll start to manifest, and they're just like golden light beings that look like lines. They're line beings. So this would be what's referred to in a lot of the ancient texts, whether it's in Egypt, India, these are pretty much the same type of beings. So the light's morphing light as well. So it's energy bands going around it, and there was a couple of them in there. But this was, this is how the sighting played out. And this, again, I was out in the backyard and I saw a metallic